But okay, so fantasy football news. I have a couple of things on here that I just want to discuss. So Tom Brady has been absent from Bucks camp, and I think is slated to be absent until August 20th. So he's not been with the team at all. Um, so how do you all think that that affects draft stock for Bucks players and even Tom Brady at this point? What's the outlook for the Bucks, uh, given that Tom Brady hasn't been there at all?
Yeah, so did he completely miss like preseason stuff? I mean, I know he wouldn't play any of the preseason games given his age, but like, has he not been at camp or anything or OTAs?
My
You know, that,
knowledge, to my knowledge, he hasn't been there at all. I haven't looked into it too much, and I also know that it was like planned. It's not like he's holding out
yeah,
or
yeah.
anything. It's just like it feels like personal time away.
I feel okay about it. I mean, I'm not super high on Mike Evans or Chris Godwin just because they do spread the ball around a lot, and it's hard to say who's going to be best wide receiver in that system. They got Russell Gage now, also. Um, Tight ends, they always have a lot of those. Was Cameron Brate still there?
No, no, I don't think it's him.
Is it just OJ Howard?
It hasn't been anybody that's been on my radar at all, so
Okay.
I couldn't really.
Well, we know Brady likes his tight ends, so maybe that's someone to eye, whoever it is. But anyways, that's like the worst division in football, probably top to bottom. I think maybe not. Maybe the NFC East is probably worse.
Yeah,
But I think that's a very easy division for them to win. So I don't worry about it too much because that means like 6 of their games are going to be kind of cakewalks. Like I wouldn't be surprised if they went 6-0 in the division. So
you're not
I,
giving the Saints a shot at all.
no, no, not a shot.
See, I have a little more respect for the Saints than that. I think they'll be decent this year. I think they'll be at least 500.
I think there's just a lot of unknowns. I know their defense is good, but like offensively, you don't know what you're going to get out of Michael Thomas, and still don't know about Kamara. So that's where I'm at with them.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not too high on Brady this year. I think the experts still like him a lot.
I mean,
Uh,
I liked him a lot last year. Like I said, I got
yeah,
him. He
as a
was,
top 10 quarterback,
yeah.
um,
So,
ESPN consensus right now has him at 7. Um, so I don't think there's too much worry around Brady and the Bucks. I think most of the targets vacated by Gronk are probably going to go Mike Evans' way,
Yeah.
um, at least until Chris Godwin gets back.
Oh yeah, he's hurt, right?
Yeah, he's still rehabbing ACL injury. However, the timetable for him to return is not like
It's not great.
super far from now, honestly. Like
Mm-hmm.
I could see him coming back, maybe not at the start of the season, but a couple weeks in, and even if he's not at 100%, like compared
Oh,
to
they
where.
still have Cameron Brate. I'm just looking at their
Oh
what they
yeah,
got. They got Cameron Brate. They also have Kyle Rudolph. Um, but I mean,
Hmm.
yeah, look at their wide receivers stacked now. I forgot they got Julio, and I know he's a shell of himself. But Mike
Yeah,
Evans, Chris
I would see
Godwin,
fantasy value for Julio.
yeah,
is
Russell
Julio
Gage.
is Julio healthy right now? Anyone
I,
know?
it
I think,
seems, but I mean, who knows what that's going to mean?
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, I think he's healthy. I just think, at this point in his career, especially with what he kind of showed as a Titan. I'm not
Mm,
super convinced on his ability to be any kind of breakout. There may be 1 or 2 weeks throughout the season where, for whatever reason, he just he gets the targets and has a 5 catch 100-yard day and a touchdown. I think that's a possibility. It's not enough for me to draft him with any confidence at all. I think Russell Gage is much more of an opportunity there,
yeah,
especially if Mike Evans or Chris Godwin were to miss time.
I mean, yeah, looking at their wide receivers, I mean, they're honestly stacked. Like, I mean, Tyler Johnson's been good too out of Minnesota. I think it's like a second or third year player, right? Scotty Miller is good. They have Rashad Perriman now. So, I mean, they have options like all the way down their roster if there are injuries, because I know Mike Evans and Julio have definitely had injuries in the past.
Yeah. So Tom Brady absent. I guess the consensus here is that it's not going to mean much. At the end of the day, he's still Tom Brady. So I'm sure, even if you end up with Tom Brady as your quarterback for fantasy, you can probably feel pretty confident that team's going to do really well.
I mean, like, I feel at this point too in his career, does he really need to be there?
I guess not, and his team trusts him. He trusts Bruce Arians, so that'll all fall into place. I think would be interesting though to see who's their backup. Kyle Trask.
I'm looking at the roster. It has Blaine Gabbert listed second. Trask
Gabbert listed second. So I mean, yeah, I guess that's something to monitor.
I mean, that's a big drop off, but
there's no real incentive for Brady to do anything this season. So I don't know what's going to happen. I don't have him that high on my quarterback listings just because he is 45 years old. This is without a doubt going to be his last season.
Mm-hmm.
I would feel much more comfortable getting like a Derek Carr or a Matt Stafford if you're not going to take one of those top 5 or 6 quarterbacks.
That's fair. I like that.
All right. So the next one that I wanted to talk about is Zach Wilson's injury. He went down in the Jets' first preseason game with a knee injury. At the time, it looked to be pretty severe.
Friday night dinner. All of a sudden, boom. And you Gecko go, bundling your home and car insurance could save you hundreds. Then the neighbors are like, huh? The little girl's like, hi, Gecko. Huh?
What is that?
What, a commercial.
Oh.
I know, right?
That's me. My bad.
It looked like an ACL initially, right?
Yeah, it looked like ACL. I think it ended up being more like a bone bruise or like something not that bad. So its timetable for him is probably like 3 or 4 weeks. I don't know. I wanted to talk about the Jets as a whole though, and if that injury might have any effect on those players. I know Elijah Moore has been a little bit banged up this preseason.
And then
potentially break out this year in his second season.
Yeah, I mean, what I think about it is I'm not high on Zach Wilson at all. I honestly think a backup could do just as good a job as Zach Wilson's going to do. So,
well, I'm going to who their backup is at this point.
I will say, so the backups in New York, that's Joe.
That's Flacco. Joe Flacco, yeah.
And
yeah.
Who's the third? Mike.
Mike Glennon.
No. Hold on.
Okay.
I don't remember.
Well, they had the big injury too to Mekhi Becton. Remember that? So that's also bad because he's like a really good offensive lineman for them on a bad offensive line. So.
Yeah, and I think I will say I heard from the experts that Elijah Moore actually last year had much better production when playing with the backup quarterbacks than he actually did playing with Zach Wilson.
That doesn't surprise me at all.
Maybe it's a good thing.
So, I'm sure when Zach Wilson is healthy, he'll be the guy, and that may open up the offense more for Breece Hall.
Mike White, that was the guy. He went off at Colts.
Yeah, Mike White's there too, but I think it'll be Joe Flacco until Zach Wilson gets
Historic
back.
Georgia basketball coach Mike White.
Yeah, and they got Chris Streveler from South Dakota running the fourth string.
Yeah. So, but Brees Hall is an interesting one. I have him at running back 16. Um, ESPN consensus has him around there, I think.
Yeah.
I just
Well,
worry. I just worry that he would be a great running back on a bad team.
yeah.
Kind of the game script stuff that we went over last time. Like, I just worry about his touches late in the game.
Yeah, especially since he's young. But I mean, they have really young running backs overall. I mean, Michael Carter's only second or third year player.
Yeah, Michael Carter is certainly an interesting wrench to throw in that situation. He's kind of established himself, even with pass catching ability to be a capable guy for that backfield. So I don't know if Brees Hall is going to step into a, every down role, or if it's going to be more of a committee backfield. I think most likely it's at least a committee at the beginning of the season, and Brees Hall could establish himself later on. I think he certainly has the talent to do so. I don't think they would have gotten him as high as they did if they weren't going to try to do that. So I've taken Brees Hall a couple of times in mock drafts. I certainly wouldn't want him to be my RB1, but as a kind of a play to win mentality, shooting for the stars, playing risky. I think Brees Hall is certainly an interesting candidate. If he's a second running back in the 4th or 5th round.
I mean, they have good offensive weapons. Like, if they can get good quarterback play from whoever it is, like, they're young, but I mean, that's where CJ Uzomah is now. Corey Davis. Who knows what Garrett Wilson's going to look like? So, and then you obviously mentioned Elijah Moore. I mean, they have options. It's just, what's it going to be from the quarterback position?
Yeah, that's a lot of young talent.
Yeah. I think as far as like preseason injuries go, this has been the biggest one. Not a whole lot of injuries,
That's good.
It's I think guys are being careful. I'll be curious to see how the next couple of weeks go. I know we have our draft next week.
Supposedly,
yeah. So the last bit of fantasy football news I wanted to go through is the Rams. So Matthew Stafford is dealing with an elbow injury that a lot of people have compared to an injury that you generally see in pitchers. And so I'm curious to see, I haven't heard that it's super serious. It's really kind of just, some pain for Stafford. But I'm curious to hear if you all think that has any effect on either Matthew Stafford's availability, his ability as a thrower, or even kind of the upside in that Rams offense.
Yeah, I mean, I think we saw the difference Stafford makes last year, winning Super Bowl in his first year. Like, it's not easy to do, especially when you've played on a bad team all your life, and then this is your first good team that you're commanding. So I would say it's a pretty big deal, especially if he misses any type of time early in the season.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely kind of changes things when you look at how high Cooper Kupp's still going and some of those other weapons in their offense. If it was a super serious injury, which we probably would know by now, or at least before draft time and everything, if he's going to miss time or not, that is. I don't know. It's something to be a little worried about, but like Caleb said, he's a good player, came from a bad franchise, so I think he can work through it. He's a tough guy. I mean, gosh, he was the one that literally had his arm dislocate or shoulder dislocated and popped it right back into place after he threw a pass.
Yeah.
I mean, that was when he was still with the Lions years ago, but I think he's fine to push through.
Yeah, I mean, you all bring up some interesting points, and I don't think he's in danger at this moment in missing any time.
That's good.
I do. It is interesting to consider, does this development with Matthew Stafford's arm, move Cooper Kupp behind somebody like a Justin Jefferson. Just barely, to where both guys are on the board, and you're looking to take one of those elite 3 wide receivers in the first round. Are you passing on Kupp to take Jefferson, or passing on Kupp to take a running back? I don't know.
Yeah, I'm looking. Who's the backup? John Wolford.
Oh, quarterback.
Yeah, I remember him playing some last year. I think he actually played against the Seahawks in like one of the last games of the season, the Rams, where they had already like clinched. John Wolford. Yeah, he was a like running quarterback. Went to Wake Forest. He was the guy last year. I'm trying to think, like they don't have any comparable backups. I mean, if you have like a Teddy Bridgewater or someone like that, you can make do. But
yeah,
it's a drop off.
I mean, is it worth talking about if Matthew Stafford goes down? Do the Rams try and get a Jimmy Garoppolo or a?
Yeah,
I certainly would.
I mean, that's in the division. Have to be a trade there. I don't think the 49ers are going to release him, but I really don't think Matt Stafford's going to miss time. I just think it's going to be, could impact, 1 or 2 throws a game.
He already is kind of down the field. I mean, a lot of Cooper Kupp's great plays last year, and just his route running and everything were shorter passes, in the mid range. So like Matt Stafford downfield is still like your classic gunslinger of just throwing it up and doesn't mind if it gets picked or not. I mean, so some of those balls may be a little bit shorter this year if that elbow injury is a real thing. So something to keep in mind.
Yeah, and then I feel like the Rams in general just dealing with injuries. So Cam Akers and Darrell Henderson both being reported as having soft tissue injuries, which the reports are that they're nothing major, but soft tissue injuries are never something that you want to see, especially with a skill player like that. So
and Akers has already been.
I certainly am going to come back to Cam Akers later, but I'm curious as to how you all see that backfield and what you think maybe a report of a soft tissue injury for somebody like Cam Akers, potentially has to his fantasy outlook.
I mean, he was hurt all last year, right?
Except for the playoffs. He came back in the playoffs.
If I can stay away from him, I would stay away from him.
I'll take him.
Generally, what I'm seeing is Cam Akers going somewhere in the early 4th rounds. ESPN has him at running back 15. I've got him at running back 18. I've actually slid him down a little bit over the course of the last couple of weeks.
It's hard to say with teams like that. Like, the 49ers are like that. The Rams are like that. I mean, a lot of teams are shifting to that if they don't have, like, a main guy, but just splitting a backfield like that. I mean, Henderson gets a lot of touches. I remember when Gurley was still there with the Rams, this is just kind of a McVay thing he was doing. Like, Malcolm Brown would have, like, 4 carries and 2 touchdowns. And Todd Gurley is, like, rushing all over the field but doesn't get the punching at the goal line, just because they change out so much. And Henderson could totally take those kind of carries away from Cam Akers, just given their size differences and speed.
Yeah, and I mean, if you're listening to what McVay says versus what he actually, calls on the field, those are 2 very different things. Been hearing a lot that he wants to utilize both Akers and Henderson in more of a timeshare, get both guys acclimated. But when the option comes to him in games, he's historically been a 1 running back kind of guy. I mean, at the beginning of the season last year, it was Darrell Henderson, almost exclusively, and then he went down. And then it was Sony Michel, almost exclusively, while he was out. And then Cam Akers comes back from an Achilles tear, really quickly. And as inefficient as he was in his return, he got all the carries, 20 plus in, the games that he came back and played in. So,
I mean, yeah, I think about that playoff game against the Bucks. Like, if he hadn't fumbled before the half, I mean, the Rams probably would have won that game by like 30. They were well on the way to, but it just screwed up. Kind of the end of the half gave the Bucks some momentum, and they came back. Made it a close game for sure. So, I don't know. I think it's something to keep an eye on. If they like Cam Akers, he's young, like you mentioned, Evan. He got those carries regardless of how bad he was still in the playoffs. So.
Yeah, I think if he's healthy, he'll be the guy. Probably a much better option than Henderson, although I wouldn't be against taking Darrell Henderson in the later round. Even with standalone value. That they bring in quite a bit. But yeah, I mean, that's all I had as far as news that I wanted to talk through. I don't know if you guys have anything else that you've been hearing that you want to talk before we move on.
I'm good.
We're clear.
All right, sweet. So I want to shift now to talking about first I want to talk about the Browns. I think this has been one of the more interesting teams that I'm thinking about when I'm drafting. Nick Chubb, I think, was a guy who several weeks ago I would have probably taken late first round, and now I'm really not too high on him. Like I mentioned the Chubb rule, committee backfield, Kareem Hunt, causing major problems there with carries, but when it's come to mock drafts and it's been time for me to put my money where my mouth is, I don't know. I never can bring myself to take him over.
I got the receipts.
I'm owning up right now. I'm sliding him down my board, and
just let him slide. I'll take him.
You should let him slide, because I said he is by far, I think, the most overrated running back when you look at those top 5, 6 running backs in the league.
Disagree.
It's unfortunate too, because he's one of the best runners.
Totally. He's just not going to score well at fantasy.
Most talented, but he's trending more towards the in between the 20s kind of running back with not much value. Like he'll get his for sure. Like I think the Browns would be stupid to not use him as much as they can. But I don't know. I really hate the Browns as a team to really bank on doing what you want.
There's so much noise. You don't know what it's going to be with Watson. You don't know what the wide receiver room is going to look like. Amari Cooper's not always that reliable. Set out some time when he was in Dallas. But, if he's got Jacoby Brissett or Josh Dobbs throwing him the ball, changes things. Offensive line is not as great as it was the last couple of years with the Browns. I'm low on Chubb. You all know this. If I have the 12th pick and he's sitting there, no.
I don't care how bad the Browns are going to be. I would take him.
Yeah, and I think with Chubb, it's more.
It's a good defense vision also.
Yeah, I think it's just more about how I see the Browns as a team performing this year, and I just don't see many scoring opportunities for Chubb, and B, situations where they wouldn't just turn it over to Kareem Hunt for passing down work or just give him kind of even split in carries. I think the Browns are going to be one of the most run-heavy offenses this year. Somewhat similar to the Packers, although not similar in actual performance.
Yeah.
So that's why I could still I would still take Chubb right now in the second round if he's still there. But I wouldn't.
Second round, it's one thing, but
I personally wouldn't take him over somebody like Kamara or Saquon at this point.
I'd take him over Saquon, but not Kamara.
I don't know. It's hard to say about with Saquon Barkley. I mean, they don't really have another guy besides him. I think like the backup is Matt Breida. I was looking at that the other day because it was one of the Weddle hard mode questions. But anyways,
You're such a nerd.
yeah, I had to look it up because I thought it was still Booker. I thought Booker was still there. I thought Wayne Gallman was still there. I guessed both of them before I
You're waiver wire guys.
Matt Breida. But like, come on, Saquon Barkley, he's going to get all the carries. Think about run heavy, like you just said. Daniel Jones is a bum. Their offensive line has improved. I mean,
it's really interesting to hear what Giants writers are saying about Saquon from camp. Like, apparently he looks really good, and
I'm sure he's
always
always looked good.
Well, and last year too, like coming off of his injury, like I don't think it's hard really to get a feel for what kind of effects coming off of an injury like that has, especially on a running back.
Yeah.
And hearing from Saquon, like I don't think he felt as confident in that knee last year as he is feeling this year. So I think you're going to see a revitalized Saquon, a healthy guy who's like putting confidence in himself. Even despite how bad the Giants I think are going to be. I really like Saquon at this moment. I think he's gonna return more to the talent that we knew him to be in his rookie season.
Yeah. Based on where he's going, like where he's projected to go, I think it's solid. What worries me is like when people are comparing him and McCaffrey. It's just like, okay, I'd probably take him around the same spot, but people have McCaffrey going like second overall. Like, I mean that's what worries me.
Sure. Yeah, no, definitely a second round kind of guy, and a guy that I'm confidently pressing draft on if he's there in the second round. If I've got a later second round pick, and Saquon's normally the guy for me. So
yeah, I'd be fine with that.
Yeah. Back to the Browns though too. You mentioned Amari Cooper. Definitely the undisputed wide receiver one.
Oh yeah, definitely.
But I'm curious what his upside is with a guy like Jacoby Brissett throwing to him. At this point, I don't think 6 weeks is going to be the number for Deshaun. I think it's going to be longer, especially if the NFL has their way. So I'm not counting on a Deshaun Watson return anytime soon. So I think the outlook for the Browns is pretty set in stone.
Yeah. I mean, they have a bad wide receiver room too. Like, I mean, is Peoples-Jones the next best receiver on that team at this point? I mean, Landry's gone. Obviously, OBJ's gone. So, I mean, after Cooper.
Yeah, which is why I think he's an interesting fantasy option, just given he could easily get up to 30% target share, but is that 30% of 24 total passes for the game?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, the thing is, too, is like you could see him being he's a really good route runner. He could be like a Devontae Adams type player, but yeah, Jacoby Brissett's not Aaron Rodgers. So.
And the inconsistency I think we've seen from his career, just, he's never really been the guy despite the positions that he's been put in. And part of that could be just the fact that Dak doesn't like having a number one receiver.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard for me to think back to the situation he was in Oakland.
Yeah, I mean, Jack Carr threw to him a lot then. I just looked up their roster. I mean, they have good tight ends. Like David Njoku and Harrison Bryant are both good. And I can see that kind of being some people to target for Jacoby Brissett. We've seen him target tight ends quite a bit. Just in those safety valve situations. They also have David Bell, the rookie that set out in the Music City Bowl from Purdue.
Yeah, that's probably their number two, I would guess.
I mean, honestly, I think he's definitely got the size.
Not a draftable guy, but still a guy to look out for. I just don't think with Jacoby Brissett and then the duo of Chubb and Kareem Hunt and potentially even Dearness Johnson, I don't know how much is left for a guy like Amari Cooper.
Yeah.
I'm confident in drafting him as my wide receiver 1. Maybe as my wide receiver 2 if I really punted on that position. I don't think that's a good strategy to banking on Amari Cooper as
No.
too, but
especially too when you think about it, like I guess he would have been in Oakland the same time Crabtree was. I'm trying to think of some other guys that would have been there then, but like you just mentioned in Dallas, there were other options. CeeDee Lamb. Did him and Dez Bryant ever overlap or no?
No.
Maybe okay. I was thinking maybe a year or so, but then Dalton Schultz has been good. Michael Gallup's always good. Cedric Wilson when he was healthy. So there were other options. I don't know how it's going to be when he's the only guy that has to get open, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and it's been interesting to hear too about Cowboys receivers. CeeDee Lamb is currently the only wide receiver on that roster, on the active roster, that has a touchdown catch in the NFL.
Yeah, it's bad. I've been looking at
it. Like that's outrageous.
That's
bad.
And as many doubts as I have in the Cowboys offensive scheme and whether or not CeeDee Lamb can be the guy to consistently break through and get open, I think he can. I think it's a little bit more of a risk than a guy like Devontae Adams, but there's a lot of opportunity there for a guy like CeeDee Lamb and a guy like Dalton Schultz. I really like him to potentially be a top 5 tight end.
What's worrisome, I think, and I think we mentioned this last time we spoke, was about CeeDee Lamb, is that he's not been the number 1 guy in a situation yet. So it's a lot of times he was open last year was because the number 1 cornerback or whoever it was on Cooper, right? And when Cooper had a big game, Lamb a lot of times didn't in that way, but I don't know.
It's also the other way around.
Yeah, that's true.
Sometimes it was CeeDee, and so I think it'll be worth watching and considering. Now that Amari Cooper is gone, is it just going to be CeeDee Lamb consistently?
Yeah,
and I think that's the big question mark.
Yeah, because Michael Gallup's out a while, right?
Michael Gallup's out. Cedric Wilson's gone. Jalen Tolbert is a guy that is a receiver there.
I think I remember him playing against Tennessee.
Doesn't have a receiving touchdown in the NFL, but
I'm look here.
Is he a rookie?
He played at South Alabama. That's why I recognize playing against Tennessee.
Yeah, I remember.
Yeah, they drafted him this past year, 3rd round, 88th overall pick. I'm looking at their other wide receivers. They got James Washington. Was he the one that played in Pittsburgh?
James Washington.
With the Steelers?
Yeah, he was at the Steelers for a little while.
Noah Brown, Dennis Houston. These are creative players.
No name guys, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, but okay. So that was a good discussion. We can kind of move on past the Cowboys and Browns, the 2 most exciting teams in the league.
Yeah.
So I want to talk now about teams with 2 elite wide receivers. This is an ongoing struggle for me, just based on rankings and average draft position.
Yeah.
And we can talk about this too in our Would You Rather segment, but the teams that come to mind for the 2 elite wide receivers are Bengals with Jamar Chase and T. Higgins, the Dolphins, Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle, and then you've got the Chargers, Keenan Allen and Mike Williams, both elite guys. I would consider the Rams to be in that conversation too, with Kupp and
Allen Robertson.
Johnson.
I would have used to say the Seahawks, but they don't have anyone throwing them the ball.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of anyone else.
Vikings. Jefferson and Thielen.
Yeah,
I like that.
I think it's going to be more of the Jefferson show there.
Yeah, it should be.
But I'm curious to hear what you guys think about how, I guess, when you're drafting fantasy football, how you should think about teams like that, especially for a guy like T. Higgins, who's second round draft pick, top 10 potential fantasy wide receiver. Like, is it scary to take a guy like T. Higgins that high, knowing that he may not have the
He's not the number one guy.
Team? I don't know. What do y'all think about that? And are there any duos that really stand out to you in any way?
We said Chris Godwin and Mike Evans earlier too.
Yeah, that's another.
I mean, I think the biggest thing is you look at what the wide receivers are, like their skill sets. So Mike Evans and Chris Godwin. If you look at that, Mike Evans is definitely like your red zone guy. Big body. He's going to get more of those targets in the end zone. And then Chris Godwin is going to be more of your, down the field, racking up yards. Kind of like what you said about Nick Chubb earlier. He's going to get stuff in between the 20s, but do you want receptions or do you want touchdowns? And that I look at the situation in Miami as a big part of that too. Like, Waddle could get a ton of targets. They could be short little screens out to the side. Think about what he did last year. Broke the reception record and everything for rookies. But I don't know. Tyreek is obviously an electric player that we saw in Kansas City, but Tua is not going to get the ball over the top like Patrick Mahomes. So I'm not huge on Tyreek this year. I think I would rather have Waddle from a reception standpoint. He also has, they both could use both of them like a wildcat, a lot of motion and stuff like that. So it's hard to say in that one, but overall, you just got to look at what the skill set is of each guy, and see what do you want? Do you rather want those targets and reception points racked up, or do you want someone that could be more of a red zone threat?
Yeah, I don't know. I think the Dolphins wide receiver, those two guys, it's just elite speed. I would take Tyreek over Jalen Waddle for sure, but I would be more than willing to draft either of them. To me, that's the duo that's most impressive right now. And then second would probably be the Chargers, and that's mostly because they got Justin Herbert slinging the pig sand around.
Yeah, no.
Mike Williams is your down the field guy, but Keenan more like that Mike Evans role that we just talked about. So.
Yeah, no, you bring up some good points, and I think from a fantasy draft strategy, that is something to take into account. If you've got a guy on your team already that you've taken, that's your proven volume, consistent guy, I think Keenan Allen is a guy that I think of. Probably just going to be the biggest lock for 1,000 yards this season.
Yeah, definitely.
Then you can go out and take Keenan Allen's not going to go before T. Higgins, but maybe to have a consistent guy and then to go out and get a red zone guy that's going to have a lot of touchdowns, but maybe not, maybe 5 catches a game. It's really interesting to pair it up like that. I think the Bucs are the most proven wide receiver duo in that category. There's standalone value every single year for Mike Evans and Chris Godwin.
It's really hard to say too, and that may be another reason of why. I know we talked about this last time, but like with Kupp this year, we haven't seen Allen Robinson have a decent quarterback ever. Truly. So he was in Jacksonville, then was with the Bears for a few years with Mr. Trubisky and all the people that have been in and out of that quarterback room. So I don't know. I think that could be another one to look at is that, with Allen Robinson, he's a similar player to Cooper Kupp in the way, good route runner, good hands, some slants going across the middle, stuff like that. So there's not really, those guys are very similar players, I think. So that could be an interesting split. When you have a Mike Williams situation versus Keenan Allen, those are two very different receivers in the way, and same thing with Tyreek and Waddle. But that's an interesting one to me still, is that I don't know what the Rams are going to look like, and especially when we mentioned Stafford earlier.
Yeah, the verdict is out on Allen Robinson. I had him last year in a league when he was with the Bears, and obviously
he went high too.
Less than ideal quarterback play in Chicago, but even when Allen Robinson was healthy there, Darnell Mooney was the guy.
That's true.
And that's to me a red flag for Allen Robinson. He's getting old.
Mhm.
He just didn't do much last year. I think the Rams paid him a good bit, so obviously they're going to use him. But I just worry about his reliability as a guy, almost to where I would put the Rams receiving duo, behind all the rest of them that we've talked about, as a true
duo, yeah.
wide receiver team.
I got you.
I think the Dolphins are interesting because other than I think Jalen Waddle is the most proven guy with the Dolphins currently. There's still a lot to be said for what Tua is going to be like this year. Can he hit those deep balls accurately for a guy like Tyreek Hill? And then what's Tyreek Hill's role going to be? Is he are they still going to try to use him as the deep threat, or is he going to become more of a over the middle kind of scramble drill kind of guy? Like I think we saw him start to be at the end of the Chiefs season last year. So
that one's really interesting to me. One we haven't talked about. I think in all of these ones that we've mentioned, there's still like a clear number one. Like there's still a clear guy that you probably take first. I think the Waddle and Hill is different just because we have seen Waddle with Tua. We know what that looks like for years on end between college and now in the NFL. One that is really interesting to me is the Eagles. So we got Devonta Smith and A.J. Brown. That's one that I truly don't know who I would draft. Like if they were going near each other, like I don't know who I would rather have in that situation. Like A.J. Brown definitely has the deep ball potential. Is Jalen Hurts that guy? Kind of the same thing we had with the Tua conversation. And then Devonta Smith's a guy that's going to rack up receptions in the short game. So what are your thoughts on that, y'all?
I would probably lean Devonta Smith just because of the volume.
Yeah.
I think it'd be well worth it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I would have a lot to say about the Eagles wide receivers. I mean, Devonta Smith going into his second season, so he's on the breakout watch for sure. It almost feels similar to the situation with Amari Cooper in Cleveland, with how many throws are these guys going to get come their way. I mean, I think A.J. Brown is a tremendous talent in himself, but is the production or the volume going to be there consistently to where I feel comfortable taking him where he's being drafted? And
he's also a guy too that I think benefited a lot from like the Derrick Henry effect with play action. I mean, you look at a lot of his targets were on play action where he just got over the top. And obviously Miles Sanders and Boston Scott are not the same threat as Derrick Henry running the football.
Yeah, I mean, for A.J. Brown, it's like he's had his opportunities to be your everyday wide receiver one and just hasn't come through. And I don't know if that's like the Titans' fault or if that's A.J. Brown, just being inconsistent. So I don't love him as a guy I would take as a wide receiver one.
He's very similar to DK Metcalf in that way, not just because they both played at Ole Miss around the same time and similar like body type, but I just think, in that way they're not great route runners. Like they just kind of have to beat you with their physicality, and that's not great, I don't think, for a wide receiver one.
Yeah. No, good point.
Let's talk just for a second. Let's go back to Mike Evans, because Mike Evans is pretty interesting because he doesn't always get a ton of targets. I had him last year. He would get pretty much 5 to 9 targets on average, and his points were very dependent on if he scores touchdowns or not.
Yep.
He's definitely not a volume guy.
He's a red zone target guy that's and that might be better now that Gronk is out of the picture. So,
I still think that's going to be his role, and that's just a kind of a trade-off that you have to make. Like, I'm not going to take Mike Evans and then go take A.J. Brown also, because I think that's just such a volatile situation. Like, if you're going to take Mike Evans, which the touchdowns are gonna be there for you, like 10 plus this season for Mike Evans. Like
Yeah.
he's gonna be a good fantasy wide receiver, but do you pair him with, I don't know, an Amon-Ra St. Brown who is gonna have
Yeah.
consistent fantasy value, even if it's not in touchdowns, if it's in like receptions, and in a PPR league, that's really,
Yeah.
valuable. So I think
I would
that's-
always lean the guys with receptions because I think you're going to get your touchdowns at some point in time. Someone's going to get a breakaway or something like that. I would always lean the guys that are going to get the most targets.
Yeah, I think with Mike Evans, you have to pair him with a guy that's going to get a lot of volume because he will have very inconsistent weeks. He'll have a week where he'll give you 20 points. He'll have a week where he gives you 4.
Yeah.
Yeah, and to me, in the second to early third round where he's going, I like a lot of other guys
Yeah.
better, mostly a running back in that round, but still a good fantasy option. Like, I'm not going to sit here and say that Mike Evans is going to be bad this year, but
Yeah.
just from a draft strategy standpoint, I'm probably going to take running back in that round or around there, or even take, I really like Deontay Johnson where he's going. I've consistently waited for him.
That's another reception guy. That's a big one, I think.
I don't hate the quarterback situation in Pittsburgh. I think, even if it is Mitch Trubisky, like he's going to try and utilize a guy like Deontay Johnson a lot, and then
Yeah. And Pickett looked fine. I mean,
yeah, I
Would
think
you
he
all
looks
take?
but
Would you all take a flyer on George Pickens? Maybe a
Absolutely.
late round.
like a very late, I
Yeah.
can see that.
I think
I would
he's even
definitely
going to go earlier than a late round. Like George Pickens is a guy probably from a moving up people's board standpoint has made one of the biggest jumps this preseason.
Yeah.
Yeah, any of those guys in preseason.
Like, I would take him over Claypool for sure.
Really? Wow. Yeah, Claypool's still going too high in my opinion.
Cool. No, really good conversations on a lot of those guys. I think the 2 wide receiver rooms are really interesting, and I don't know. I come back to, and this will be my first. We can move into the would you rather segment if you guys
Let's do
would
it.
like. I think this is a good
Yeah.
segue, but my first question would be: would you rather have a wide receiver 1 on a bad team, or a wide receiver 2 on an elite team? And I even think about guys like Gabe Davis with the Bills. A guy that's generating a lot of steam there. When targets aren't going to Stephon Diggs, they got to go somewhere. And yeah, Dawson Knox is there, but
Jamison Crowder's there now too, for whatever that's worth.
I don't think that's gonna make much of a difference.
Yeah.
There's another guy, Isaiah McKenzie, that's there too.
Mhm.
So
I really think it depends on the type of team. I think the Bills are a good example of that, where you probably still want the wide receiver 2 in that way, just because Josh Allen's going to throw the ball a bunch. They have no run game. So I think that's a good example of where you would definitely want the wide receiver 2 on a great offense. But overall, I still think maybe that wide receiver 1 on a bad team. I mean, I look at Amari Cooper on the Browns. I know we're not super high on him, but at the same time, there's no one else they're going to be throwing the ball to. He's going to, like you said, he's going to get those targets. So if anything,
that's the beauty of the would you rather question. I mean, these are decisions that you have to make in the middle rounds.
Yeah, I would totally go for the worst team, just because if you look, we talked about game script. If you talk about them needing to throw the ball late, I don't think they're going to pull their wide receiver 1, just depending on what the score is. But I would definitely say a bad team in that situation. Bad team, wide receiver 1. Trying to think of other examples of that. I mean,
Yeah.
if we think the Cowboys are going to be a bad team, CeeDee Lamb.
He'll go high though. He'll go real high.
Yeah, I mean,
When I'm thinking like wide receiver 1 bad team, I'm thinking Amari Cooper, I'm thinking Kadarius Toney.
Tony,
I'm
okay.
thinking
DK Metcalf for Taylor Lockett.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I still think I'd rather have those guys overall, just because they're going to get those targets. Seattle's a bad example of that because there's two like comparable guys. But like when there's one, just literally just one guy, like Darnell Mooney, that's a good example.
He is the number one guy now in Chicago.
Exactly. So I'd still rather have the number one guy always.
All right, Petty, what's your take?
Yeah, I agree with Cameron. I'd rather have a number one guy on a bad team. Someone that comes to mind for me would probably be somebody like Christian Kirk with the Jags.
Yeah.
They'll be behind in a lot of games in the third and fourth quarter. They'll be spreading the ball around.
Yeah.
I would much rather have a Christian Kirk than a Devontae Smith or a AJ Brown with the split targets.
Yeah. Yeah, because you don't know what you're going to get in a lot of situations. I still think those guys are definitely going to go higher, but I don't know. Yeah, I would. Yeah, Trevor Lawrence and Jalen Hurts at this point in their pro careers are, I mean, could be comparable.
Yeah,
they could. Trevor Lawrence still has the ability to actually air it out on some deep balls, though. I think his upside's a lot more than Jalen Hurts. I would be more likely to take a flyer on Christian Kirk as my wide receiver 2 in my team than I would any of the Eagles wide receivers.
Okay, I got you. Eagles are a run-dominant team, too. We've seen that. Yeah. They want to be. Oh.
Yeah, and I think just based on my rankings, my thoughts on this, volume is king, and not just like end of the season volume, but consistent week in, week out volume, to where there's a very obvious floor for these guys, and I think you're going to get that more with the wide receiver ones. So I think about guys like Brandon Cooks with the Texans.
Oh yeah, that's a guy I didn't even think of. But yeah,
I know Nico Collins is there, and I really actually like him a lot as being a late round flyer. But Brandon Cooks is another solid like floor guy to where
totally.
I feel good about
he's a 1,000-yard receiver.
Another guy might be DJ Moore at the Panthers.
I'm not a DJ Moore stan.
Yeah, but but if DJ Moore is sitting there in the 4th or 5th round,
that's fair.
I might take him over a Gabe Davis or
Yeah.
I just think there's too much upside and not even upside, but like high floor with wide receiver ones, even if their team sucks and even if like a Jacoby Brissett isn't going to throw the ball very much, like I just feel more confident in those guys from a fantasy standpoint.
Yeah,
I agree. I think it needs to be a clear wide receiver 1 though. Like I said, Seattle's a bad all that. Like
I'm avoiding Seattle's wide receivers altogether, pretty much.
Yeah, I would recommend fading every bit of Seattle.
So let's talk about DK Metcalf then. This will be a fun segment to do, but with the continuing on,
make sad.
Would you rather segment? We're talking DK Metcalf here. So would you rather have DK Metcalf or Terry McLaurin?
Oh.
Terry McLaurin with Washington, right?
Yeah, to me this one was the easiest one.
I think in fantasy, I think Terry.
I would take DK.
I would take Terry because I think Carson Wentz, we can say what you want about him, he's far better than Drew Lock or Geno Smith.
I disagree.
This man could have won an MVP.
Carson Wentz at all?
Carson Wentz could have won an MVP. That's a terrible vision.
I'm not a big Carson Wentz guy.
Drew Lock has to throw against, Aaron Donald coming at him and Jalen Ramsey twice a year. Nick Bosa 2 times a year. J.J. Watt's corpse twice a year.
Still not a big Carson Wentz guy.
Honestly, I didn't expect this to be a split decision. I have Terry McLaurin light years ahead of DK Metcalf.
I would agree. I mean, I hate to say But like, there's not another option. I mean, like
Jahan
that's the
Dotson.
thing. Tyler Lockett and DK Metcalf are like interchangeable for
Yeah,
fantasy purposes, but like Terry will get all the targets there, and I would definitely take Carson Wentz over Seattle's quarterback situation.
I love
And
Terry
that's coming
McLaurin.
from a man that has a signed DK Metcalf pylon sitting in his bedroom.
You're kind of talking me into it.
No, I love Terry McLaurin. I think like from a talent standpoint, he's extremely talented, and they just paid him a ton of money.
Yeah.
He's gonna get lots of targets every week. I like
He
Terry
got
McLaurin.
paid too, but Drew Lock's a bum.
Yeah, I just okay, yeah. So Terry McLaurin.
I just don't think
Um,
Drew Lock is that much of a bum compared to Carson Wentz.
So we're okay.
Oh,
So we're
Oh.
2-1 here on Terry versus DK. All right. So all right, let's move on. DK Metcalf or Brandon Cooks?
Brandon
Cooks.
Cooks.
Yeah, I think Brandon Cooks. Apparently that one was easier. I actually have McLaurin higher in my rankings than Cooks, much higher.
Really?
I have Terry McLaurin as my wide receiver 11, and Brandon Cooks as my wide receiver 20.
I mean, yeah, Terry did. He didn't have a great year last year, but I think it'll be better. Honestly, I could be wrong. I think Wentz needed a change of scenery,
Wasn't he injured, McLaurin, last year?
in and out of injury. Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, I like Brandon Cooks better than DK Metcalf. How about Brandon Ayuk or DK Metcalf?
Ooh, that okay.
Help me out
Okay.
here. Help me out here. Brandon
Brandon Ayuk is the number 2 in San Francisco.
Okay.
So I think here I'm going with Metcalf. I really am, just because. I mean, we had no idea what San Francisco is going to look like quarterback position. I mean, Trey Lance obviously has got potential, but that's a team that wants to run the ball a lot. I don't know. And Debo is utilized like in every capacity.
Yep.
If George Kittle is healthy, I think he's going to be in the mix more. Jawan Jennings got a lot of targets last year compared to Ayuk, honestly, especially in the playoffs. So I'm going Metcalf there. That might not be popular, but
Give me DK for all the same reasons.
okay.
I'm gonna go Ayuk here, and I've been hearing a lot of news from the 49ers camp. So there's a ESPN analyst. She's a huge Niners fan. She covers them a lot. There's a lot of hype behind Brandon Ayuk in the 49ers offense, and to where
He kind of had a sophomore slump, right? Because this was his second year, going into his third year.
yeah, and I don't think the 49ers really knew what they were doing in that offense last year with Debo
No,
coming
definitely
back. But I think there's some talent there, and even with the crowded targets there, I think there's like I've heard that he has a really good connection with Trey Lance,
That's good.
and so I'm honestly higher on Ayuk than I think I would have been last year or even several weeks ago. And I just hate DK. I just hate Seattle in general. I don't think like even on DK's best weeks in Seattle, I think it's the ceiling is just so low.
Well, yeah, I mean, it could be like 4 targets, but 2 of those are touchdowns. Like that could be his best week,
Could be.
So that's the issue. That's another example of. I mean, they're on a bad team, but like when we talked about the 2 elite wide receivers, I mean, you look at it last year or the last couple of years. There'd be weeks where Lockett would have like 45, and DK would have like 5. And the next week it was the opposite, just based on who they were feeding, based on the quarterback matchup. So a lot of stuff with that.
Mhm.
So I don't know. It's hard to tell. He's a red zone guy.
So
I just don't know how Ayuk's used as much in that offense now.
yeah, I mean, I think that's a question mark, but I don't know. I'm optimistic there.
Yeah, I think the 49ers could be good. I mean, gosh, they went to the NFC Championship, and we're talking about them like they're trash.
Sure. Last one I have here with DK Metcalf, DK or AJ Brown.
I'd still say AJ Brown.
I would also say AJ Brown.
That's tough. That's close, but I'd say AJ Brown.
I think the team there breaks the tie for me.
Yeah, that. But then I don't know. I guess if they were in a comparable draft spot, I'd say DK. But like, I don't know. I feel like you're getting AJ Brown earlier, right? Like much earlier.
Yeah. Much earlier.
Much earlier. So I don't know. I'd rather have him, but like looking at where you could get them both in a draft, I don't know. I'd stay away from both.
You know, DK may end up being a huge value in.
Oh, totally. I mean, if you could get him like in the 6th or 7th, would he be that low?
Probably. Honestly.
I mean, yeah. I know, is Lockett going above him most likely?
I don't think there's really any consistency there.
Yeah.
I think it's actually probably DK.
DK over Lockett. I mean, yeah, I think either one of those guys is a good late, like mid to late pickup if you can do that. But
maybe not as a starter, but as a flex option.
Yeah, I'd say AJ Brown still though, just for all the reasons we mentioned earlier.
I think I'll fade the pick. I'll go DK again.
Yeah,
I'm a bigger
all right.
DK stan than you all are.
All right.
I have a signed pylon.
I think we'll need your help this year for sure, Cameron. All right, so let's move into some more would you rather. So this is going up to the first round. Would you rather have a full season of Christian McCaffrey or a full season of Jonathan Taylor? And this is getting down to who do you take number one overall, and what really is the fear behind Christian McCaffrey this year? So
I'm still going Jonathan Taylor, just based on the team, right? We've talked about that a lot. Like, I know that was your last reasoning with the Eagles over the Seahawks, but like I would definitely be taking the Colts over the Panthers in this situation for sure, at like every aspect. I think Jonathan Taylor is a bigger part of that offense than McCaffrey can be. So I don't know. I think the passing upside is similar, but I'm still leaning Taylor. It's just because we haven't seen McCaffrey in a while. I think this is recency bias for sure, but I'm going Jonathan Taylor.
All right, Pity, what do you think?
Yeah, give me Jonathan Taylor. I think it's just a better team overall.
Mm-hmm.
The Colts don't have a lot of good wide receivers. They got Michael Pittman, who's their best
wide receiver.
Their best wide receiver. But like after that, I don't even know who they have at wide receiver.
Pascal.
That Alec Pierce guy from Cincinnati, rookie.
Give me Jonathan Taylor. He's going to rack up so many points.
Mo Alley Cox. Ever heard of him?
Never.
So I'm going
in the league, but
I'm going full season Christian McCaffrey, and honestly didn't expect to be in the minority this much.
Really, I said it's the recency bias.
I think Christian McCaffrey is just such an outrageous talent, and especially with the ways in which he's used in that offense, even if his usage is scaled back from the injury concerns, a full season of Christian McCaffrey being potentially the number one wide receiver and the number one running back on his own team, I just don't think there's a situation that's better in fantasy football than Christian McCaffrey in Carolina.
I just think a lot has changed for his situation overall since we get to be such a fantasy, god in that way. I mean, I
can see that, but I think you could potentially think about Jonathan Taylor in the same way. I mean, the Colts now have a new quarterback and potentially
better quarterback.
A new offensive scheme that's going to maybe include Nyheim Hines more than people might like.
Yeah.
And I don't think they want Jonathan Taylor to become the workhorse, in the long term that he has been,
No.
just for the sake of, durability issues. So I think, I would take Jonathan Taylor over Christian McCaffrey with taking everything into account. But if I knew that both of them were going to give full seasons, I would take Christian McCaffrey. Just like
For that upside.
I think the ceiling is so much higher with McCaffrey, and I don't know if the floors are that much different. So,
Seems fair. I just
that's. I mean, I'm certainly.
quarterback situation.
I'm not. If I'm in the top 5 picks or even in the first round, I'm not proactively drafting McCaffrey. I'm too afraid. I don't think he's played enough in the last 2 years really to buy my confidence.
That's my big thing with running backs, especially, is that I will always take the younger guy in like 90% of situations, just based on durability. I mean, I saw a stat the other day about like running backs after their like 26th year. And I'm like, that's insane. Like, literally, if you turn 27, like, you're such a decline. And that's like 2 or 3 years in the league for some guys, A lot of it's because of injury.
So I guess with that lens on, what do y'all think of Derrick Henry then?
Sounds hypocritical. I will say Derrick Henry is a unique case in that way, just because that offense, that team doesn't exist like without him. I mean, he's the focal point of it, and he's not your typical like running back in 2022. A lot of times we talk about these guys like Taylor, like McCaffrey, like Aaron Jones, like Dalvin Cook, going down the list of these guys that have like the pass catching upside. Derrick Henry's like a Adrian Peterson 2012, Sean Alexander, like just some bizarre, mid 2000s running backs that like are just workhorses. And I think Henry is unique in that way. Like, he's the only running back in the league that I would take given those qualities.
Derrick Henry.
Speaking of both sides of your mouth, Cameron.
Yeah.
Speaking out of both sides of your mouth. There.
I am speaking out of both sides of my mouth. But I said he's a unique player. I said 90% of the time I'm taking the younger guy. The 10%, that's different.
Right. I hear you.
Henry.
I'm personally taking Henry over McCaffrey.
Yeah, I'd take Henry over McCaffrey, definitely.
I don't know. I'd probably take McCaffrey. I still think Henry's
I'm
great.
I'm scared of McCaffrey. I'm scared of him. I don't want him.
I'll take him off your hands.
You can.
Caleb's going to end up with McCaffrey and Nick Chubb and
2 guys I want no part of. So that's fine. You can have them both.
Either he's going to win the league or he's going to be doing the Waffle House challenge. And
I've played fantasy football with no running backs before.
Yeah.
I've done all right with it too.
Just get Swift and Jamal Williams and call it a day.
All right, another would you rather here, running back edition. So Cam Akers is the guy on the pedestal. I think there's a lot of varying opinions on this guy. So would you rather have Cam Akers or David Montgomery?
I'll have Montgomery.
I'll have Akers.
I think I'm going to Akers.
Bears have one of the worst offensive lines ever constructed, and that's coming from a Seattle Seahawks fan.
I think the offense in LA is just too good,
Yeah.
Even to support 2 running backs, which I don't think McVay's going to do. But if Akers is healthy, I like him, really to have some fantasy value in a high-powered offense.
Like, the Bears think that Montgomery is like Derrick Henry. I mean, truly.
He's extremely talented.
I think he's talented. I just think that they don't understand that they have like no offensive
The holes
scheme.
are not going to be there for him.
Yeah, I mean he's not going to be able to find holes because their offensive line is just terrible.
His yards per carry is going to be so low. Even if he does, huge volume guy probably.
Oh, totally. He'll get 20 carries.
Khalil Herbert mixes in, but I think David Montgomery's the guy. So much so where he's touching the ball 20 times a game.
I'm definitely Akers there. Even with the split backfield we talked about earlier, I'm huge on Akers.
I'm just not a huge Akers guy. I just think David Montgomery's a lot more talented.
Yeah. I don't
Yeah.
care about talent.
I know you don't.
You've
All
seen
right.
me in the gym.
Cam Akers or Antonio Gibson?
Oh, Lord. I'd still say I had Gibson last year, and I don't think I've had a single player in fantasy football make me more angry than he did last year. Like,
I don't think you mean that.
I do mean that. I do mean that big. So I'm going Akers there. I'm not doing that again. I know the quarterback situation has improved, but J.D. McKissick's not there now, right?
They paid him actually to stay.
Okay, yeah, I'm definitely not going Gibson
And then
then.
they've got a rookie, Brian Robinson.
Yeah,
So there.
yeah. That shows me they don't believe in Gibson. They don't believe in the guy. I'm taking Akers.
Help me out with Gibson.
Your Commanders,
I'll stay away
I was
from my
about to say
Commanders.
Redskins.
Don't you dare. Say
Please
the
mute.
Redskins.
your guy, your R&R.
Well, I'm gonna pull a C-Phil here. I'm gonna talk out both sides of my mouth. I'll take Akers. I just want to stay away from Washington.
Yeah. You said you wouldn't even touch Akers. You don't want any part of him.
I also said I'd rather have somebody else than Terry McLaurin. So
That's
apparently
true.
I hate Washington worse than I hate Cam Akers.
That's fair. Most people do.
I'm taking Akers big time here. You know, I hope the rest of our league isn't watching this. Antonio Gibson is.
They don't even know what time they're going to draft.
Antonio Gibson is not trending in the right direction in Washington. He played in their last preseason game and fumbled, which has been an ongoing concern.
Yeah, what a surprise.
And I even heard reports today that he was practicing with the Washington Commanders kickoff and punt teams, and also taking some reps with the threes. So it could be nothing, but I think Washington is at the very least sending him a message related to his ball security, and I think he's a big faller on the overall fantasy board.
He should be, because this is the thing. Last year I had the 11th pick, I want to say. So I got Eckler and I got Antonio Gibson, only 2 or 3 picks apart. On paper that looks great, right? Like 2 really good running backs. But so many times last year, the fumbles, and that they would get him out of the game then too. If he fumbled, it was like, okay, McKissick's there.
He had that shin splint issue.
Yeah. So he wasn't healthy throughout the year either. I'm not a Gibson guy at all because he cost me a lot last year.
Yeah, I'm not drafting Gibson with much confidence. You know, if it comes down to the later rounds and he's fallen so far that I could potentially take him as a flex, you know, I'll consider it. Even then, it would be hard for me.
The quarterback situation has improved there, but that all of what you've said about paying McKissick, they drafted Robinson. There's no chance I'm taking.
Not looking good for Gibson. But let's move on. Cam Akers, me and you are big Cam Akers guys.
I'm on it. I don't even need to hear the other one.
Cam Akers or A.J. Dillon?
Yeah, Cam Akers. That's a split backfield with Aaron Jones. Aaron Jones is good. Aaron Jones is the guy. He's going to get the pass.
What if I told you that Aaron Rodgers himself thinks that Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon are both going to have 50 catches this season?
I would say that Aaron Rodgers is a lunatic, and it has been doing LSD this summer. So
that's out of the question with Aaron Rodgers.
That's what I would say.
Pity, Akers or A.J. Dillon?
I'm going to once again talk out both sides of my mouth. Give me Akers. It's a split backfield with Aaron Jones playing significantly more.
I think so. So I'm going to go Akers too, but I will say the Green Bay split backfield situation, I think, says more about Aaron Jones than it does about A.J. Dillon.
A.J. Dillon was good last year.
He was really good, and he's a
Mhm.
250-pound running back that can catch passes. I think Green Bay is going to be stupid not to utilize him. I'm taking Akers before AJ Dillon, but if anything happens to Aaron Jones whatsoever, then AJ Dillon's the guy. Like
Yeah.
borderline Christian McCaffrey, Jonathan Taylor, Derrick Henry type production. So
That's fair. I just think that Jones is still your passing upside in that offense.
100%, and Aaron Jones could potentially be the leading receiver on that team, for sure. Really talented guy. All right, last one with Cam Akers. Cam Akers or Travis Etienne?
Still Cam Akers. We've not seen ETN in the league. You're expecting me to take a flyer on that? No chance. With James Robinson there, no chance.
Is he going to be a factor though?
He'll be a factor. Cam Akers is just a much, much larger factor. My factor.
This is a tough one for me. I'm gonna go Cam Akers, but it's slim. It's very.
You love
slim.
Akers.
I'm a
Yeah,
big, I'm a
he
big-
loves him.
No, Cam Akers is the one on the Rams. ETN may not be the one on the Jags.
Etienne's the one. Etienne's so easily the one on the
So
Jaguars.
this man doesn't hate Akers as much as the Commanders, the Packers, and the Jaguars.
It's pretty. It's pretty much a toss-up for me on that one, though. Give me
I'm
Akers.
still hard
Give
at-
me Akers just barely. I'm a big
I'm
ETN
gonna
guy,
go
though. I
ETN.
think he'll be pretty good.
I'm gonna go ETN, and I think the concerns with Akers, both his efficiency as a running back, and then now these injury concerns. I think Akers probably. I don't even know if he has more upside. Like ETN's extremely talented.
Yeah.
This is a really good one too because both guys are coming off Achilles tears. The relationship between ETN and his college quarterback Trevor Lawrence, I think, is nothing to sneeze at here. ETN is a pass catcher. I think I'm all in on ETN being a RB1 this year. Like I'm starting to feel it, and even though the Jaguars aren't probably going to be the best team, I think Lawrence takes a step forward. I think ETN's the guy. James Robinson, he'll be a change of pace kind of guy. But I like ETN, honestly.
No. I just worried he's essentially a rookie. That's what worries me.
That's fair. It may. I don't know which one's the safer pick, honestly.
Yeah.
There you go. So the last bit I had for the Would You Rather section is I'm going with some tight ends here. And specifically, I
Mo Alley Cobb.
want to talk tight end value. So I'm going to stay around two guys. Well, a couple of guys here. Kelsey and Mark Andrews, the consensus 1-2 tight ends being drafted right now, going really high, sometimes both guys in the second round, early third round. So I want to hear your guys' thoughts on kind of the value at tight end and what you're feeling here. So I have a combo here. So I want to see what you all would rather have. Would you rather have Travis Kelsey and Amon-Ra St. Brown? Or would you rather have TJ Hawkinson and Juju? So
All right. You know,
so
big
some
Lions
lines here. We're substituting a tight end on one team and a wide receiver on another team.
You know I'm a big Lions guy, all right? But
Because here's the reality. Travis Kelsey is going second round. TJ Hawkinson, you can get 6th, 7th round maybe.
yeah,
So
Yeah,
take
you wait on your time.
time.
I'm a huge Lions guy. I think St. Brown showed a ton of upside last year. We talked about Hawkinson. I have him as a top 5 tight end. Don't get me wrong, but I think he is going to have more attention to him. You know, last year that was a big thing because he was the only option. He was getting injured and beat up pretty bad. I am going to go Kelsey and St. Brown. I don't think I would draft that. I'm not drafting a tight end that early. But between the two options you gave, I'm going with that. Juju's not my guy. I'm not messing with Juju. I have nothing bad to say about the Hawk, but I have a lot of bad things to say about Mr. Smith-Schuster. Go ahead, gentlemen.
I agree. Give me Kelsey. Give me St. Brown. The reason being, I think Kelsey is far and away the best player in that mix. So just give me the best player. Give me a solid wide receiver to go with him. Juju, I realize he's probably going to be the one for Kansas City in terms of wide receivers, but Kelsey's going to take a lot of those targets. So give me Kelsey. Give me St. Brown.
Are you willing to draft that, Caleb?
I'm not willing to draft that.
Then what are you saying?
I'm saying if you give me the combo, I'm saying that's better.
Would you rather draft Kelsey and Amon-Ra St. Brown, given where you're probably going to have to get him, or would you rather draft T.J. Hawkinson and Juju where they're going?
Give me
what's
Kelsey.
the value?
Still give me Kelsey and St. Brown.
Still give me that as well, because if you're going to get you're going to get a number one target on a really good offense. Even though it's a tight end, you're going to get that with Kelsey, right? And then the number one wide receiver on the Lions, I would say, is St. Brown. I think Juju is going higher than what, like, people are putting him up there, not where you would draft like Tyreek Hill, but I think there's a big drop off now in the wide receiver room and tight end room there in Kansas City. So I think Juju's going too high. I would still draft Kelsey at that spot if given those options. I don't want any of them.
I find myself in mock drafts consistently having teams that look more like Hawkinson and Juju rather than taking Kelsey in the second round.
That's fair.
Because I just want a running back there so bad. It's hard for me to bring myself to take Kelsey unless he falls to me in the third round.
True.
I would take him there. I'm unsure that I'm going to have that opportunity. So I'm going to say that Hawkinson in the 7th round with Juju in the 5th round probably is a better value than a Kelsey, Amon-Ra, St. Brown situation. Just given where I would have to take him. And
I've seen – that's the thing. Giving it context like that helps. I've seen Juju going higher than that is what worries me. Like, I don't want any part of that. I
feel comfortable having Juju as my best wide receiver on my team.
No, I wouldn't feel comfortable with that personally.
I agree.
Okay.
Just because I think there's a big drop-off. I think there's a big drop-off after Kelsey on the team. I think there's going to be a Tyreek Hill effect, too, with Mahomes. Initially, at least.
I still like Juju a lot.
That's fair.
I think he's the consensus number one wide receiver in that offense. And still a really young, talented guy. Like, I just think the situation he had in Pittsburgh really, hurt him a lot.
Yeah, that's fair.
So, anyway, okay. So now we'll bring Andrews into the mix here. So Mark Andrews actually either today or yesterday passed Kelsey in ESPN's tight end rankings.
Oh.
Which, whatever,
Big Lamar.
Would you rather have Travis Kelsey and Rashad Bateman or Mark Andrews and Juju?
Okay. You're playing me since I'm a Lamar guy. But based on where you could get
you hate Juju, so this is a tough choice for you.
I do hate Juju. Mark Andrews is easily the best target on that team, easily. But you remember
Kelsey.
You remember what I said about Kelsey, and if you remember back to our first pod, you remember that I said Rashad Bateman was one of my sleepers. So I'm going with Kelsey and Bateman just because I don't like Juju. That's fine. I'll say it.
Pity?
Kelsey and Bateman.
Am I going to have to be different again?
Yeah.
Looks like it.
I'm really high on Juju, and for some reason, way more than you guys, I guess. I don't know about Bateman as being like a guy there that really that I'm comfortable taking over a guy like Juju. Honestly, at this point, I'm thinking Andrews and Kelsey might be comparable in tight end production this season.
Yes. But I'm thinking about where you can get these guys, right? If you're assuming they're going to be around, both of them are taken in the second round, right? I think people are taking Juju way before they take Bateman, though.
It may not be way before, though.
I don't know. I just worry.
I have an old ADP list here. Let's just see what it said, a month ago. So Juju, ADP 75th.
Okay.
And Rashad Bateman 84th. This was a long time ago. But
that's what. Yeah, I just feel like there's more Juju hype now. That's what worries me.
Is there no Bateman hype? I mean,
I've been trying to hype him. No one else is hopping on. But
I'm going Andrews and Juju.
All right.
There you go. But I enjoyed the conversation. I enjoyed being the odd man out several times.
That's fine. We're the casuals.
Any would you rathers that you all would like to throw out there?
Okay, I got one. Would you rather be sacked by Aaron Donald or trucked for 10 yards by Derrick Henry? Like you're literally just hanging on. He's just like ragdolling you.
I'll be trucked. I don't want Aaron Donald falling on me.
Is there a quicker death that I could take instead?
I don't know. I feel like you're going to get injured either way.
Yikes. So I think I'd rather take the trucking from Derrick Henry because he's not tackling me. He's just running through me. So okay. I feel like I could, more easily bounce off of him. Unless you're telling me I have to hang on, then that's like being
you do have to hang on.
Drugged by a horse through the
mud. You're like horse collaring him from the front.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't like the idea of Aaron Donald falling on me, so I'm going to go with Derrick Henry.
Agreed.
That's fair. Fair. What I would say there, I don't know. 10 yards is a long way, gentlemen. I could get a lot of things out of socket in that amount of time. I would honestly say the sack because I think it's not quick and painless. It's just much quicker.
I think there's more opportunity for death if you get crushed by it.
Yeah,
we're assuming we're wearing pads and helmets.
If Aaron Donald falls on you, your flat chest will be twice as flat after.
I'm going to the gym. I have a membership.
We did do bench press today.
Yeah. Does Aaron not know that?
I just think we need to train a little more before you take a sack from Aaron Donald.
I mean, I think it's one of those things. It's just like, you're going to get hit by anyone. Like, might as well be Aaron Donald. Like, I don't think an Aaron Donald sack would be different than a Darrell Taylor sack, would it?
I would disagree.
It's still a sack. A sack is a sack.
Aaron
Is Aaron
Donald's a
Donald going
beast.
to push you into the earth after he sacks you?
Let's say he feels
Like
bad
Darryl
for me. He
Taylor
just wants
would?
to get to me. I don't know.
I don't know if that hit like it was like I meant
Oh,
for it to.
it did. It did.
It hit.
15-yard
It hit.
penalty, Alabama game.
Yeah. I don't know. I think it's quicker. You could risk like chest and head injury more with the sack, but I think there's a wider range of injury that could come from being trucked, especially if you're hanging on.
I will respect that.
I hope we're never.
I don't respect it. I'm picking Derrick Henry every day of the week.
If I made it like 20 or 30 yards, would that have changed your mind?
No.
Yes.
Huh? Like you have to hold on to this man for the length of a field. You're still taking the sack, Pity?
I'll hold on to him.
You would not make it to the halfway point, man.
I think if it was like me getting trampled by Derrick Henry for 10 yards, that would be one thing. But
Like you're
like,
afraid just running on you.
yeah, if I'm like hanging on, or like if I'm a middle linebacker in the A gap and Derrick Henry's like running through me. I don't know.
I got you. I just think Aaron Donald would be nice. I think he'd be nice about it.
That's interesting.
He's a nice guy. Come on.
He is, but
Okay.
not on the football field.
All right.
He knows I'm not a threat.
All right. Any more would you rather's?
That's all I got there.
I'm good.
All right. The last thing that I put on here to talk about, rookies. There's quite a lot out there that are generating buzz. So wanted to hear from you all what rookies you're most excited for this season, and if/where you would potentially draft said rookies in a fantasy draft.
I know I say I'm avoiding the Hawks in most aspects, but I think Kenneth Walker could be good value. And another bad team, running back, I think Breece Hall, obviously good value. Again, it just depends on where those guys are going. I look at them at guys that you could flex potentially. I don't see them being like your RB2. Maybe so with Breece Hall, anyways. But those are two guys that stand out to me. Rookie wide receivers are hard to say. Sky Moore. All right, you're on the Juju train.
Because you hate Juju.
Yes, you're on the Juju train. I'm on the Sky Moore train. It's fine. Another guy, Christian Watson, for the Packers. Again, I would have to look at where these guys are projected to go to know if it's value or not. But, yeah, those are just some names that stand out to me of guys that will make an impact. I don't see anything with like Drake London. I mean, Marcus Mariota is going to be throwing the ball as his number one option besides Kyle Pitts. So, I don't know. I would lean more of the running backs in those situations just because of the workload they might potentially get on bad teams. It's hard to say for some of those rookie wide receivers.
And I actually disagree with Cameron. I like Drake London a lot. Obviously not as a wide receiver 1, probably not as a wide receiver 2, but as a bench wide receiver that you can sub in whenever you want. I think he's probably the most talented wide receiver out of the whole draft. Him and Olave, I like a lot. And then give me Kenneth Walker, too, for running back.
Yeah.
So I like the Drake London.
Drake London, Dan.
This is a guy who you think about where he is, right? I mean, that's very valid. But I think that I'm glad you caught that. That's what I was going for.
Yeah.
I think aside from Kyle Pitts, like
he's
Falcons have to grow a lot, in my opinion. I mean, and even with
And
Cordero
running back, good position
in
for
there
them.
and Algier, like the Falcons are going to be down a lot. They're going to have
Marty Zacchaeus.
yeah. I mean, like there's just no one else, and I think Drake London, went first wide receiver in the draft for a reason. I like him a lot, and I even would compare his workload and potential fantasy value to a guy like Amari Cooper. Both in bad offenses, both their number one wide receiver in that scheme. Like Pitty said, it's not going to be a guy that you want to bank on as being, one of your starters every week. But Drake London could turn out to be a good fantasy wide receiver and potentially a consistent one. If there's two options in Atlanta, and he's one of them, I like Drake London to fill a role there immediately, and I think he's the only rookie wide receiver that has that opportunity. So I'm potentially drafting him. I like Olave as well, just because of the lack of wide receiver depth in New Orleans.
Olave is a good point there.
There's a lot of, I guess, hype around Michael Thomas coming back, and I think he'll be great. But aside from him, too, like I think there's probably a good space for Olave to slide in and get quite a bit of work early. To where I would take a flyer on him in the later rounds. And then at the running back position, I'm not going to go with the guys like Breece Hall. He's going to get drafted early.
Yeah, agreed. I think Kenneth Walker is the good value there, in my opinion.
So I think actually the best value for rookie running backs is Dameon Pierce in Houston.
Mm-hmm.
I think from
a good
what
preseason game
is that he is trending more towards being the number one guy there.
Yeah.
Very talented young guy. The other options are Rex Burkhead and Marlon Mack, maybe.
Yeah, Marlon Mack's there now.
I think it's going to be Dameon Pierce pretty early, and I think he's moving up draft boards really rapidly to where you question the value there, but I think he's going to be a guy that when he becomes the starter may not be a workhorse, but still like
got pass kicking
a
upside.
solid, maybe even up to RB2, RB3 borderline. So I think Dameon Pierce is one to watch. I would certainly take him.
It worries me whenever someone does really well in like a preseason game and they start flying up draft boards. But I mean, it still means something. I think. And that's a good point. And it's on a team that's not great, doesn't have a lot of weapons, so anything on offense is going to be good. So
yeah, I think the hype is coming more like not exclusively from a preseason game, but coaching staff is high on this guy. The writers are high on him, and this may be a cold take in your all's opinion, but Davis Mills, not the worst quarterback out there.
I agree.
I think Houston might be better than expected.
I agree.
Still bad, but better than expected.
Yeah. I think them and Jacksonville both will take steps forward this year.
Yep.
To where I worry about the Titans potentially coming in last in their division, but
I mean, I wasn't going to say it.
Whoops. All right. But yeah, I think other than that, there's other guys that might play roles here and there. Garrett Wilson at the Jets, coming off of injury, who knows what.
Jameson Williams with the Lions is also.
So we'll just see kind of what roles those guys play and could be worth an IR stash early if you've got nobody else, just to kind of see if they do come back to play this season. If they kind of fill a role, especially if there's injuries on their team.
Yeah.
So, but that's all I had on my list of originally 5 things to talk about. But
dude, we killed it.
We did.
We got all of it in. I got nothing else.
Me either.
I'm excited to draft with you guys. I mean, I certainly.
Are we
have a
gonna
lot.
do? Are we gonna be live together during the draft?
We can.
I don't mind to if
Yeah.
y'all want.
I think it'd be fun to get a bunch of people in here. Like I know Devin and Kellen would probably join us in a live Discord.